I've solved 6 wars in the last 6 months, a little more than 6 months now.
I've solved 7 wars. We ended 7 wars. I thought this would be one of the easier ones, and this has turned out to be the toughest one. India, Pakistan, I mean, these were big ones.
They are big ones, big lies, big exaggerations, because if he actually had solved 7 wars, 8 wars, don't you think you would have heard about it at the time? Don't you think he or his administration would have been saying something as each of those wars was solved? Doesn't it seem a bit strange that we're now just looking back and saying, oh, by the way, I solved 6 or 7 or whatever wars? See, what Grandpa, trying to cosplay as if he's Winston Churchill or whatever, is hinting at is that some wars, not all of the ones he's gonna talk about, happened. And maybe he helped. And I care about that. I want there to be actual peace. And if Donald Trump, whether for good reasons or corrupt ones or whatever, is actually leading to peace, then I want to know about that. I want to give him credit. And so I started doing research, and thankfully there were a number of different news sites that had tried to decipher, what are you talking about with the 6 wars thing? Because he was never really specific about most of them. And I want to run through these conflicts and find out which ones are accurate, which ones are kind of true a little bit, and which ones are utter and complete insane fabrications. And there's a variety of those. So 2 that the White House posted on a list, journalists asked, what is he talking about? They sent a list. Were not in the last 6 months. They were actually from his first term. And even in those cases, it's not actually accurate that they stopped these wars. So 1, Ethiopia and Egypt, there wasn't an actual agreement or peace treaty or anything like that. We don't know exactly what he is claiming to have been involved in, and it happened many years ago. But whatever, he's adding it as a conflict he solved in the last 6 months. That's interesting. Many of the conflicts that he is claiming he solved are still very much unresolved, and conflict is still ongoing. After all, he said Ukraine day 1. He said, I got that ceasefire in Gaza. People are being murdered every day in Gaza, and yet they're on his list. So immediately that throws the list into question, but there's a lot of other ones there too, especially as the number goes up as the days move on. So first there's Armenia and Azerbaijan, whose conflict was so important to Donald Trump, and he was so central to solving it that he mispronounced the name of one of those countries and forgot the name of the other. Take a look.
You saw the Azerbaijan. That was a big one going on for 34, 35 years with Albania. Think of that. I mean, going on for years. And I got to know the heads, and I got to know them through trade. I was dealing with them a little bit. I said, why are you guys fighting? And then I said, I'm not going to do a trade deal if you guys are going to fight. It's crazy. Anyway, one thing led to another, and I got that one settled. And that was a one that people said you couldn't settle it. Even when I had them both in the Oval Office at the end when they were getting ready to sign, they were sitting next to each other. And they were trying to get away. They didn't feel good. By the end of an hour, they were hugging each other and congratulating each other. It was beautiful to watch, actually.
Yeah, so look, I tried to do extra research on that one. I went to Google and I typed in Azerbaijan, which I think is a spinoff of Abercrombie, and I wasn't able to find anything about it because that's not a real country. He is taking credit for ending a multi-decades-long war, and he has no idea what the countries actually are. And he would also have you believe, by the way, that this conflict that has gone on longer than some of you have been alive was so intractable that nobody believed anybody could find peace. And at the same time, he ended in an hour by being like, I'm gonna raise tariffs on you if you don't. And they were so happy to end it and to not have the tariffs that they hugged each other and now they love each other. Now look, if that's the way that it ends up going long term, that would be amazing because it is a terrible conflict and it would be awesome if it's ended. That very much remains to be seen though. There's a lot of people who have looked into this and say that there's reason to believe that the conflict could very much continue. I don't know that short-term threats of tariffs are enough to paper over these massive differences, but okay, we'll see with that one, I guess. He doesn't seem to care that much about it if he can't learn the names of the countries, but okay. So let's move now to Congo. It's the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's one that he's actually cited several times, as well as Rwanda. So they signed a peace agreement brokered by the US. So they were actually involved in this. Some of these, he wasn't even really involved aside from a tweet. This one, he was really involved. The issue is that both the Congolese army and the Rwandan-backed M23 rebel group have accused each other of violating the peace agreement by carrying out attacks and building up troops. Now, look, I am not going to be overly hard on Trump if you get a peace agreement and it doesn't 100% stick for all time, okay? These conflicts are complicated. But then the way you describe them could show a little bit more humility and not just pat yourself on the back until you're bleeding from the palm, when it very much remains to be seen if there is actually peace. When you brag about ending this conflict, which does not appear to have been ended, it seems like you care less about the people who live in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda and more just about adding to a stat. And so, again, kind of an issue with it. Cambodia and Thailand, they agreed to an unconditional ceasefire in July to resolve a 5-day cross-border conflict. This is not a 30-year war that he's moving in on or whatever, but okay, fine. The deal was signed in Malaysia after the two nations faced pressure from Trump, who, like with Armenia and Azerbaijan, he said, hey, I'm not going to do a deal with you or whatever. The issue is that the truce agreement was immediately tested after both countries accused each other of carrying out attacks. China also, by the way, was putting a great deal of pressure on them to end this brief conflict. And so him tweeting at them or whatever that he's going to raise tariffs and them ending a 5-day conflict and maybe not even ending it, adding that to a list of the wars that you solved, it doesn't seem honest at all. And look, we could go on. There's a lot. India and Pakistan. He keeps saying he was responsible for them having a ceasefire. India's like, he was not involved in that. And he does not deserve any credit for ending the conflict. He says he solved a conflict between Egypt and Ethiopia. They hadn't been at war. And when you press him on this, he says they would have gone to war if I hadn't gotten involved, but they weren't at war and they don't have a peace treaty. I think that proves the point. We can end there. This thing is so deeply unserious, Sharon, and yet it's concerning content of the most seriousness. Like, this is theoretically, except in that one where there wasn't even a war, this is literally people's lives that are on the line. And he treats it as if it's just like a line to bulk up his CV or his LinkedIn profile or something. What do you think?
As usual, it's all about him. He wants this Nobel Peace Prize. And I don't even think people would care. Give it to him. If he's really helping, he's not helping. One minute he's talking about tariffs and increasing tensions. Another minute he's saying, I'm going to stop this war between Ukraine and Russia day one, when he's really bolstered Putin. He's actually prolonged it. And then other times he says, hey, either do this or we're walking away. We don't need a ceasefire. I mean, this guy is anything but peaceful. He's narcissistic. I can't technically diagnose him, but he's narcissistic in his approach to things. If it looks like a narcissist, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're going to end with this. There was one other on the list, and it was the conflict between Israel and Iran. He is claiming credit for having ended it when it would not have happened if he hadn't been president, and we were an active combatant in that brief conflict. The idea that you want credit for bringing peace in a conflict that only happened because of you is madness. And at least on that one, MAGA seems to agree.